guys, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about automatic writing, what it is, and how you can do it. Automatic writing has been, I think, a very important experience for me on my path of developing as a clairvoyant and developing as a medium. I think the first time that I did any work with automatic writing, I was 13 or 14, and I was very new to a lot of these metaphysical or New Age subject matters. It was through automatic writing that I actually connected to my guides for the first time, and I feel a very tangible way. As I said, I was 13 or 14, um, and I had studied and read about automatic writing, but I'd never really done any active work with it. I never really tried it. And basically, for those of you that don't know, automatic writing is a form of channeling, sometimes called channeled writing, inspired writing, free association writing. And basically, we can use it as a tool to connect to spirit, whether that be our loved ones in spirit, our spirit guides, your higher self, your angelic guardians, whatever idea that you have for your guidance, your support system, or your um, higher awareness. You can use automatic writing to tap into that. And there are several different ways, too, of approaching automatic writing. The first way that I was taught was uh, this idea that you sit and clear your mind and allow your hand just to rest on the paper, and over time it would start moving. And eventually that movement would spell words, letters, symbols, shapes, numbers, coming from, like I said, your guides, spirit, your loved ones. And that can be a really powerful, a very interesting tool, I think, for those who have the patience for that. That was the very first form of automatic writing that I tried, and for me, I found that it was very frustrating because I'm not a patient person and I'm a little bit of a control freak. So like I said, I was 13 or 14, and for weeks I would sit and just let my hand make these circles, kind of scribble and scribble and scribble. And eventually, after about 2 weeks of doing that and not giving up, which is probably the hard part or the hardest part, a name. My hand actually wrote a name, and the name was Celeste, Celeste. And so, of course, whenever I got anything from Spirit, I would always ask that it be validated in some way. And so I think the first validation was the next day I was at the grocery store, and in line there was, up by the register, these little pamphlets, I guess you could call them. They're like a baby name book. And the page that I opened up to was the C's, and the name was Celeste. And the meaning of the name Celeste means heavenly, of the heavens. And so I thought that that was really appropriate and really fitting for a guide. The second form of validation came when there was an author whose books I really like to read on spirituality and such. And I checked out one of her books, and for whatever reason, in that book, talking a little bit about her past and her history, she used her full name, and her middle name was Celeste, and that was also something that I didn't know. So that happened just the day or so after the experience in the grocery store. And then the third and kind of final thing that really cemented that this wasn't something that I invented, because also Celeste wasn't a name that I was familiar with. It wasn't something that I'd heard, so I didn't feel like it was my subconscious just sort of spitting it back out again. And plus, my intention was to connect with who are my guides. And so I was watching an episode of Medium. It was a fairly newer show at the time, and in the show, one of Patricia Arquette's daughters had a friend who the storyline was kind of centered around, and the daughter's friend's name was Celeste. And so by that point, I was pretty sure that Celeste actually was a guiding energy that was stepping forward. And so for the first little while, a lot of the automatic writing just kind of looked like that. It was scribbles. It didn't really look like anything at all. Um, and I would encourage everyone to try automatic writing in the way of just sitting with a pen and paper, putting yourself into a relaxed state, asking, or setting your intention that only those that can come through are those that are helpful, that are those, of the light, if you will. And then you can think whether, it's mental, out loud, or just write the question at the top of the paper. What do I need to know? What changes do I need to make? Is there anybody there who is a guide or a guiding energy for me, or who is around me? And it takes time and it takes patience and it takes practice, but eventually those scribbles or those small movements with your hands will eventually turn into, like I said, letters, words, numbers, guidance, essentially. The way that I approach automatic writing is a little bit different. I call it channeled writing or inspired writing. For me, the process is very much relying on my inner hearing, um, and my inner thought, my inner stream of consciousness, I guess, if you will. Usually, I will start just by putting myself into a meditative state and then writing or thinking the question, what do I need to know? What changes do I need to make? Or if there's some sort of other situation going on, a question that is more relevant to those answers that I'm seeking. And as I just relax, my challenge to myself is to just write this stream of words. I don't want to think about what's being written, but my challenge to myself is to not let my pen stop, to keep it going, because the minute you stop, you start to think about what you're going to write, and that's not channeling, that's not automatic writing. It's supposed to be coming through you, not from you. And so I get this inner dialogue, or almost faster than my hand can write to keep up with it. I get this stream of words or this flow, this narrative, and that's what I write out really, really quickly. And and so I'll show you an example of what it looks like when I do my automatic writing. And it just kind of flows. As I said, the less that I think and the more that I just keep my pen moving, the dialogue is there. And the really interesting thing about it is when you step away from it, because the ego has a natural tendency to say you're making it up, um, it's coming from you, not through you. But as you kind of step away from it and you go back to it in time and you read through what was written, you'll notice those aren't the words that you use, that's not the way that you talk, that's not how you express or emote. And that the things that are written about, the things that are talked about, are actually really, really relevant to, whatever may have been going on at the time, or may not have made much sense then, but currently make sense to you in your life and the situations that are going on. There's also another approach too. If you have trouble with a couple of those approaches, you can also use this method, and it kind of goes back more towards this messier look. And the idea is, in that approach, or in that way, you're not waiting so much for your hand to start moving by itself. You are engaging the scribbling. You are engaging the movements. This is a method that I use a lot in my personal one-on-one readings, whether it be a psychic reading or whether it be a mediumship reading where I'm connecting with spirit. Oftentimes, and if any of you have had a reading with me in person, you know that I scribble on a pad. I'm scribbling and I'm doodling, and that's my way of keeping my left brain occupied, my intellect, that analytical side occupied, so the right brain intuitive channeling part of it can actually come to the forefront. And it's when that left brain is occupied, I'm doodling and I'm just sort of tuning into any impressions, whether they be visual, auditory, feeling based, or just like a sense of knowing. And as different things pop in as I'm scribbling, I may write it down. Or draw something, and those are the things that I find are relevant to the messages that I'm supposed to be passing forward to my sitters and to my clients. And so, just sit with a subject in mind or a question and just start scribbling. And you might be surprised at what comes through, or you might hear a word or a name or see a picture. And as soon as you sense it, no matter how you get that, write that down. And that too is a form of channeled writing. And that is something that you can use to help you in your own everyday life and also on your spiritual path. And if you're wishing to connect with higher guides or higher guidance, automatic, channeled, or inspired writing is a great way to connect. I think when you live a intuitive lifestyle, a sixth sensory lifestyle, when you're engaging a spiritual path, you learn that the universe or your guides or your higher self kind of speaks and communicates to you through synchronicity. And so just recently, I noticed, or for some reason, this idea or subject of automatic writing came up. And so I just sort of noticed it and went about my day. And then it was at the shop that I work at a metaphysical shop. I noticed I was standing in my office, and I turned around, and there's some retail product and stuff in there, and just eye level was a shelf, and there was one CD with the title facing me sitting on top of the shelf of automatic writing. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. It popped up again. And then I go home, and in the living room where the TV is, there's kind of these shelves on the side of the stand that the TV sits on. And I noticed that there were some VHSs that weren't mine, that I hadn't looked at before, that belonged to a housemate. And as I started to look through them, the first VHS that belonged to her was a instructional video for automatic writing. So I thought, it's time to sit down and it's time to connect in this way again. And as I did so, and as I listened to that guidance, I brought through some really um, interesting information that I found to be very relevant for myself. But it also sort of inspired me to do this video to not only share that experience, but to kind of show you ways or give you techniques in which you can connect with your own guides or your own guidance through writing, automatic writing, inspired writing, whatever you want to call it, and however it works for you. The other thing that I thought was kind of funny too was I got home just a couple evenings ago in the mix of all this synchronicity surrounding writing and automatic writing, and someone on Facebook had posted a video clip of Rebecca Rosen. If you don't know who she is, she's a medium, a very good medium actually, who was on the Dr. Oz show. And they actually featured and talked about automatic writing, which I thought was really interesting, that it was being put out there more in a mainstream kind of way. And so that too was just another thing that kind of inspired me to not only engage in my own automatic writing and to share my story about how automatic writing helped me connect with my guides, but also to give you sort of my techniques and my approaches for you to do the same thing. So if you want to try automatic writing, one thing you can do right now is go get a pen. I like pens. Other people prefer pencils. Pen or pencil, and a fresh sheet of notebook paper. Some people will tell you that you have to use just one pen and one notebook or one pad and bless it or pray over it, and I think kind of all that's bullshit. I've never had that. That's never been my experience, and the information has come through just fine. So you don't have to worry about anything like that. But what I would suggest is take a minute to kind of pause this video and just put yourself in a relaxed state. Um, Take some deep breaths. Make sure that you're sitting comfortably. Just take a few minutes to unwind and let some things drift from your mind that maybe were kind of on the forefront. And then what I want you to do is think about a topic or an area that you would like some insight into in your own life, or you could think of your own spirit guides. Who are they? What messages do they have for you? Or you could use those two standby questions that I always go to. What would you have me to know right now? Or an open-ended channeling. Or two, what changes would you like to see me make, or would be beneficial for me to make in my life at this time? And just take a breath, hold the intention of the question, and then just begin to allow yourself to write. If you're going to do it kind of my approach, challenge yourself to just write anything that comes to mind and not think. Keep your hand moving and just let words flow through you. Even if they don't make sense at the moment, your challenge to yourself is just to engage the writing, and understanding at this point isn't necessary. As you build that muscle, over time, you'll become more proficient at automatic writing or inspired writing. You can also do the other approach that we talked about and make the movements yourself and let the other information come through. Or you can just kind of sit and rest your hands and truly breathe and hold the intention of inviting spirit in, bringing spirit into your space, into your energy, into your physical form, and letting them make the movements. Any way that you approach it, again, you have to be very patient with yourself, but just breathe and allow yourself to kind of be used as a channel, as a vessel. Again, setting your prayers and your intentions beforehand that only those of the highest integrity, the highest light, and the truth come through. And then just really allow yourself to enjoy the process. So if you have any questions about the process, my process, your process, anything that you notice that comes up for you as you are engaging this world of automatic writing, don't hesitate to contact me. Same thing goes if you're interested in any of my services or readings. My website is www.psychictravissanders.com, facebook.com/psychictravissanders, and I look forward to hearing your experiences.